Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Wavy. In today's video I'm going to be showing y'all how to have no recoil on the MP5 like Optic Scump or any other good pro player that uses the MP5. So first off, everything starts off with your class setup. So I'll go ahead and show you the key attachments to use on your MP5 that almost all pros use. So first off, for a muzzle brake, there's two options you have. We're actually almost kind of three. So if you guys want to go for recoil, either use muzzle brake or compensator, and it just depends whether you're on accuracy or control. I personally use compensator to do the control because it's usually the lowest category and accuracy always goes up once I put the other attachments on, but I've seen pros use muzzle brake too. But if you want to get more range out of your gun, you can use the monolithic suppressor, which a lot of pros also use. So it just depends on your playstyle. So but we'll just put on the compensator for right now. I never use a barrel on the MP5. I don't use one. For laser, a great one that helps with recoil is tack laser, and you'll see control goes up because of that. And then a lot of pros either use collapsible or ultralight. I use ultralight. And then what's it called? Underbarrel. So there's two options here, either Commander or Merc. They're both really good, and they're about honestly the same. I just use Merc just for the hip fire accuracy. And then you always want to have 10mm on, so that's a great class right there. If you guys also, you can put on the grip, so you can take off like the laser or the stock, and some pros run stipple grip with it too. But yeah, you see at the bottom left, everything goes up. The accuracy goes way up. Like I said, that's why I don't put on the muzzle brake, or it'd go up even more, which there's no point to, and the control would go down. So that's my class I run for it, and it's probably the best MP5 class setup in the game. So everything starts with the class setup, and that's a great class setup to use.
But I don't know what the final one is.
Yo, what about that boy Mutex?
Ooh, I don't know about that one. You guys know who'd be good though? You guys know what I'm talking about. Yo, perfect. I'm not sure if he'd be down though when we hit him up.
Alright guys, so another key setup is all in your setup. So one of the biggest key things, guys, is to make sure you get a monitor if you have one. Around size 20 to 24 inches. I have an Asus 24 inch and it was like $150, so it's not too expensive. So definitely recommend that. That helps with recoil and just aiming in general, and I'll promise you guys it's going to be the biggest thing. And then another thing is your controller or like your button layout. So what I recommend, guys, what the main thing of paddles and all these things is so you don't have to take your right hand off the aim stick, and you can aim while you jump instead of you don't have to take your hand off. So that's why people use paddles. Like me, I use a Scuff Impact, or you can use like stick and move or bumper jumper, or claw. But basically, guys, you just never want to take your right hand off the thumbstick, and that's going to help with your recoil control a lot. Another thing, you could also kind of get like a control freak like I have on my right stick, which is long and concave in, and it helps with my aim, and some pros use that. And then for sensitivity, you kind of want to run a lower sense to help, which is I run like 6.6. And then another thing which helps a little bit is you can put like 0.90 on to control the recoil a little bit better. It makes it kind of slower when you zoom in. Your overall sensitivity isn't affected, but when you're ADSing, it makes it a little bit slower. That's what that affects. So I recommend that. And vibrations disable, that helps. And then shooting with bumpers helps with my control, because I don't have to reach around so far. My hand isn't as strained, so I can just shoot with the bumpers right there. And then standard aim assist and standard aim response. So that's the best settings to use, guys, and the best layout. So another thing which I recommend is going into a custom game to practice your aim, and you can go against bots or just play against bots in a free-for-all, and you can do a limited time, a limited score, and radar on. So anyways, that's really all for this setup wise. I'll see you guys in the custom game. Alright guys, so a great way to practice the recoil in the MP5 in any gun, to be honest, is just to fire it and look at the recoil pattern. So this can change a little bit depending on your attachments, but as long as you keep the same attachments on, the recoil pattern won't change. So what you want to do is just shoot at a wall and don't touch your right stick. So let me just go ahead and show you. Hold on. Alright, let's see what it does. So with the MP5, you see with the attachments I have on, it really doesn't have too much recoil already because of the right attachments I put. And you'll see, well, I kind of screwed up that a little bit, so the recoil wasn't as great. But let me back up and so you can really see it. Oh my god, stupid bots won't leave me alone. Let me go back over there real quick. Alright, so let me just go back a little bit so you guys can really see the recoil. But even without touching it, the recoil isn't that bad, and you'll see it just basically goes up and a tad right. So what you guys want to do is just do the opposite of that to make it where there's no recoil. So you just want to hold down and then slightly to the left a little bit. But to be fair with you guys, I really don't even think about holding left. I mean, it does go a little bit right, but to be honest, if you just hold down, it's going to be a laser like that. Just directly down if you hold it. You can do it, diagonally left just a tad, kind of like I showed. But either way, if you just hold directly down and just have a steady hand, there's going to be no recoil whatsoever, and you can see that right there. I mean, just look at that, guys. It is absolutely a laser. And I'll back up to you just so you can see it. I mean, it's really not moving much. I backed up and see, look at that, guys. It's still laser. So that's how the pros and good players really have no recoil with the MP5. Is this they just master holding that down. And what helps too is if you, and what I did this a lot, I remember with the Maddox in Black Ops 4, is just do exactly what I'm doing, guys. Go into a custom game and just shoot a couple hundred bots before you play every day. And over time, if you just keep using the same weapon, which is like the MP5, your aim's gonna be crazy with it, and you're just gonna be able to beam people all across the map. It's just really overpowered. This gun once you master, and that's why the pros use it so much, and it's the SMG that they use in competitive. So yeah, guys, that's one of the biggest tips I can give you is just make sure you have a good setup and learn the recoil pattern, and just learn how to control it. So anyways, let's get into the next tip. Alright guys, so for the next tip, is one that actually isn't talked about much, and it's a tip that helps me a lot. And that is when you're shooting, guys, and even I do this too sometimes and I forget about it, but when you're shooting your gun, you mainly look at the enemy while you're shooting at them, right? And but what you guys need to start practicing is staring at your crosshair or your red dot when you're shooting at an enemy. And when you're staring at that, it's going to make it so much easier to control the recoil because you're seeing exactly where your bullets are going. Instead of it's because usually you're looking past the it's kind of hard to explain. But, usually you're looking past the iron sight at the enemy, and it's kind of in your peripheral vision, the recoil. But if you're staring directly at the iron sight or like the red dot, if you have that on, if you're just staring at that while you're shooting, it's going to make it so easier to control the recoil. So instead of looking at the enemy and placing your aim on there or your iron sight on there, focus instead of placing your iron sight on the enemy. I mean, that may seem kind of weird, and if it does mess you up, then don't worry about it. But in general, just stare at your iron sight or whatever you're going to use, like the red dot, while you're shooting, so you can just see exactly what your recoil is doing in real time, and that's going to help so much. And I'm telling you guys, I really don't see anyone talking about it, and that's what I do, and it helps me so much. So I'm just staring at that iron sight when I'm shooting at enemies the entire time. So yeah, that's a great tip right there that I don't really see too many people talking about. Alright, the next tip is kind of abusing aim assist, and like I said, you want to have standard on, that's the best. But what it is guys, for some reason, when you hit your very first bullet on the enemy or your very first shot, it makes it so much easier to control the recoil and kill the enemy. And you can just test this yourself. Try shooting beside an enemy and then going onto them. It's going to make it so much harder to control the recoil. Well, it's not that much harder, but it's pretty noticeable, especially long distances. Up close it doesn't matter, but if you're shooting long distances and you see if I go on an enemy, it takes so much longer to kill them, and the recoil isn't as it's basically, it just deals with the aim assist. So but if you hit your very first bullet on an enemy and you're already locked onto them, the aim assist is going to keep you onto the enemy, and it allow you to control the recoil better and shoot them. Instead of like, if you miss your first 2 bullets and then go on an enemy, it's going to be a little bit harder to control your recoil. And you can also see this too by like just shooting at, don't shoot at anything and just look at your recoil, and you see it kind of bobbles a lot. But if you're shooting at an enemy, it's way more accurate. You see it doesn't really move as much. And this is the case, I know, in Black Ops 4. This played probably a little bit bigger part in Black Ops 4, but it still is like this in this game. So and anyways, it helps killing enemies faster. So just practice hitting your first shot. And that kind of goes with centering and snapping on enemies. And I made a whole video on that too, guys, so make sure you watch it. But what centering is just keeping the middle of your white circle around chest high level around the whole map, so whenever you see an enemy you can just zoom on to them. You don't have to, like, because some people, like, they stare at the floor and have to, like, aim up at the enemy. But if you're already like chest high level and all you have to do is see an enemy is do that, it's going to help with recoil control and just aiming in general. So that's a good tip. But anyways, I made a full video on that, guys, so make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. So let's get into the next tip. Alright, guys, so another tip is whenever you're shooting at enemies, just strafe. And strafing, it helps win gunfights, but it also helps you control the recoil. And again, this is the case in Black Ops 4 as well. So and you can just see this yourself, when you're standing still, it's a little bit harder to control recoil. But if you're strafing a little bit and just move the left stick back and forth, it helps you control the recoil so much better. And I remember with the SOG in Black Ops 4, dude, it was so hard to use if you weren't strafing a lot. And it's the same with the MP5, to be fair with you, especially at long ranges. If you're just moving it back and forth, just even a hair, it helps to control the recoil a lot. And if it doesn't help you, you don't have to worry about it. But I just know all the pro players do it, and it also helps me as well. And you used to always want to strafe anyway when you shoot, so they go hand in hand. And you can I'll show you right here, like, just do a little bit of a strafe, and far distances, you see it's literally a laser. Like, look at this. It's really not moving at all because I'm doing that little strafe. And again, it's gonna have a little bit more recoil when I'm not shooting enemies because of the aim assist. But when I have aim assist and I'm locked into the enemies, the thing doesn't move at all. So that's gonna help me be able to beam people at long distances. And the next tip is it's how you play, or not how you play, it's what you play. So one thing to help with recoil control that you can do is play ground war, because enemies are going to be at longer distances, so you're going to have to control the recoil at longer distances, which is going to help your aim. So that's a great tip there, right there. Just use the SMG and try to beam people across map in ground war. And if you can do that, then when you go on regular multiplayer, bro, you're going to be frying kids. And another thing, is to play custom games. And then one more thing is play competitive. I know it probably is hard to do that in this game, because there's no league play, but you can play like GBs, which are free or something like that. But you don't have to do that. That's just an option right there. So that's really all the tips I have. Well, actually, one more tip that I could give you that I know helps me a lot and helped me in Black Ops 4 is just to watch how good players play, and just watch, whatever your favorite gun is, watch who the best person is using it. So, like, say in Black Ops 4, it was Dashy who used the Maddox, and Maddox was my gun. In this game, I like the MP5, so I watch Scump a lot, and he has a really good MP5 shot. So just do that. For some reason, when I watch good players play and use the guns that I'm using, it helps me just to control the recoil when I play. Like, I don't know what it is. It may not help you, but you can definitely give it a try. So just check out some pros on Twitch, or even, you know, some good pub stompers, and just see how they play and use the guns that you're using. So anyways, that's all the tips I have. I may include a gameplay after this, I don't know. But anyways, hope y'all enjoyed the video, bro, and I'm out, man. Peace.